You twist the key in the front door, and the house answers with a hollow, tired click. The air feels heavier than it should, like a storm holding its breath. Outside, the sky sits low and bruised, wind pushing grit across the driveway while a for sale sign squeaks on its chain like it's begging to be taken down. You scroll listings on your phone and it hits you. The prices don't match the payment, the payments don't match the paychecks, and the moving trucks don't match the booming headlines. This isn't a gentle cool down. This is an unraveling. Because across America, people don't just move when they want to. They move when they have to. When taxes bite, insurance explodes, jobs thin out, and the dream starts hemorrhaging cash. And that's exactly what this countdown exposes. Subscribe to the Real Estate Black Box right now, because we don't do comforting narratives, we do receipts. Stay to the end for number 1, where the exodus turns from concerning to devastating. Number 10, Denver, Colorado. You roll into Denver with the Front Range rising like a postcard. Blue sky, sharp sunlight, and that thin mountain air that once felt like pure opportunity. This was the can't-miss market, the place where every open house looked like a tech mixer. Not anymore. Now the vibe feels different, quieter, tighter, like the city is bracing for impact. Back in 2022, Denver's pandemic momentum hit full throttle, with many neighborhoods, Lodo, Highlands, and Rhino, selling fast at premium prices. Remote work, relocation money, and cheap debt pushed the market into overdrive. Buyers treated bidding wars like a sport. Then rates rose, and the oxygen left the room. Now the numbers turn troubling. Zillow's typical home value in Denver sits near $557,500, down 3.4% year over year, while the market no longer rewards overconfidence. Realtor.com data shows inventory surging. Denver sits among the metros with 48% more inventory than pre-pandemic. Levels and listings stay up even as demand cools. Homes take longer to move, with days on market stretching and price cuts returning as a routine, not an exception. Nationally, 12.9% of listings carry cuts, and soft Western markets run hotter than that source. The reason? Higher rates crush affordability, investor math breaks, and insurance costs rise with hail and wildfire risk. Colorado's premiums climb, and Bankrate shows Denver area annual insurance around $3,514 for $300K dwelling coverage source. As you leave Denver behind, the market feels like a rope fraying strand by strand, still standing, but visibly weakening. The next stops only get worse. Number 9, Phoenix, Arizona. You drive into Phoenix and the heat hits like a wall. Even in the cooler months, dry wind, wide roads, new subdivisions stretching toward the desert like a mirage made of stucco. Phoenix once looked unstoppable. Fast jobs, fast building, even faster home prices. Now the shine fades. Phoenix peaked in the pandemic era as buyers flooded in from pricier coastal states. In 2022, the market felt bulletproof. Mesa, Chandler, and Gilbert became magnets for remote workers and investors hunting yield. Then the rate shock landed, and the mirage started evaporating. Here's what's alarming. Realtor.com shows Phoenix among the metros with the highest share of listings with price cuts, 20.8% of listings, a brutal signal of seller capitulation source. Inventory builds, demand softens, and the buyer who once waived inspections now demands concessions. The metro median list price sits around $480,500, down 3.5% year over year, and price per square foot trends slip with it. New listings run hot, but pending sales barely keep pace. Classic oversupply behavior. Investors pull back because rent growth no longer rescues bad purchases. Vacancy creeps up in pockets near downtown Phoenix and parts of Tempe where new units stack like dominoes. What drives it? Oversupply from aggressive building, rate pressure, and the slow bleed of insurance and utility costs in extreme heat regions. The real threat: Summer power bills plus rising ownership costs turn affordable Sunbelt into financial quicksand. As you exit Phoenix, you don't see a crash site. You see a slow-motion collapse, the kind that ruins people quietly. And the countdown keeps sliding downhill. Number 8. Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas greets you with neon and noise. But behind the Strip, the neighborhoods feel tense. Rows of identical roofs, dusty yards, and open houses that used to swarm, now waiting in silence. Vegas once bounced back faster than anyone expected. This time, the bounce looks weaker. The city's last boom peaked hard during the post-2020 surge, when Californians arrived with equity and investors arrived with spreadsheets. By 2022, Vegas felt like a casino bet the market kept winning. Summerlin, Henderson, and Centennial Hills climbing fast. Then the odds changed. Now the data turns brutal. Realtor.com shows Las Vegas inventory up 29.2% year-over-year, and homes take 10 more days to sell than a year ago. Momentum dying in real-time source. The median list price sits around $465,500, down 0.6% year-over-year, while price cuts hit 16.5% of listings, 1 in 6 sellers waving the white flag. When listings rise and days on market spike together, that's not cooling, that's slippage. Add investors stepping back and the resale market starts drowning in competition from new builds. Why? Vegas depends on tourism and service jobs, and wages don't match the cost jump. Interest rates crush buyer power, and the market built too much too fast. The real threat is confidence. When buyers stop believing prices only go up, the entire mood collapses. As you leave Las Vegas behind, the market feels like the lights after last call, still glowing, but emptier, quieter, and dangerously close to going dark. Number 7. Austin, Texas. Austin still looks like a success story on the surface. Coffee shops packed, cranes in the skyline, murals everywhere. But you can feel the strain. Too many listings, too many sellers, and too many owners who bought the top-thinking tech city meant permanent protection. That protection is gone. Austin's frenzy peaked in 2022 when bids exploded and locals got priced out almost overnight. The city sold a narrative, South Congress lifestyle, domain tech jobs, endless in-migration. Cheap money made it easy to believe. Then rates rose, and the math turned ugly. Now, Zillow-style confidence gives way to hard numbers. Realtor.com reports Austin's median list price around $462,000, down 7.3% year-over-year, with price per square foot down 6.1%. That's not noise. That's a measurable false source. Price cuts hit 17.7% of listings. Homes take 8 more days to sell than last year. And inventory relative to pre-pandemic norms sits shockingly high. Realtor.com notes Austin's inventory around plus 42.3% versus pre-pandemic, a flood of options that destroys seller leverage source. What fuels this? Oversupply, affordability collapse, and the tech hiring mood turning colder. The real threat is psychological. The city that promised instant equity now delivers payment shock and evaporating demand. As you pull away from Austin, you leave behind a market that feels like a startup after the funding dries up, still standing, but bleeding out fast. Number 6. Miami, Florida. Miami looks like paradise when you arrive. Sunlight flashing on the water, palms bending in the wind, glass towers shining over Brickell. But the mood feels different now. The storm isn't just in the Atlantic. It's inside the numbers, inside the monthly bills, inside the fear. Miami's pandemic peak surged as remote workers and investors stampeded in. In 2022, condos felt like gold bars, Edgewater, downtown, and Sunny Isles selling the dream of endless demand. Then, the cost of staying started suffocating owners. Now the data turns alarming. Realtor.com shows the Miami metro median list price around $500,000, down 4.3% year-over-year, with price per square foot down 2.7% source. Days on market climb by 7 days year over year. Even listings flow dries up. New listings down 14.6%. A signal sellers fear listing into weakness. Price cuts still hit 13.0% of listings. And then comes the killer, insurance. Bankrate shows South Florida premiums in places like Fort Lauderdale, around $10,917 annually, for $300K dwelling coverage, with nearby cities pushing even higher source. That's a second mortgage for some households. Contributing factors? Insurance and HOA pressures, climate risk and affordability, snapping under higher rates. The real threat is forced selling. When carrying costs explode, people don't choose to leave, they flee. As you leave Miami behind, the market feels like a shoreline during storm surge. Beautiful, expensive, and suddenly underwater. Number 5. Los Angeles, California. You enter Los Angeles through a ribbon of traffic under hazy skies, palms swaying above cracked sidewalks, the city glowing like a dream that costs too much to touch. LA used to laugh at downturns. It carried scarcity like armor. Now that armor shows dents. Los Angeles peaked during the pandemic era, when money was cheap and demand felt endless. In 2022, buyers stretched for homes in Silver Lake, Culver City, and the Valley, convinced that a forever market couldn't break. Then rates rose, and the payment shock hit like an earthquake. Now the numbers turn severe. Realtor.com places the LA Metro median list price around $1,062,500, down 2.9% year over year, with price per square foot down 1.6% source. Inventory climbs 14.7% year over year. Sales slow. Days on market rise by 4 days. Even price cuts, once rare here, still show up on 8.8% of listings. Meanwhile, census-based migration tracking shows California posted net domestic migration of 239,575 between July 2023 and July 2024, hundreds of thousands leaving the state's cost structure behind source. Why? Taxes, housing costs, and insurance stress in fire-prone regions. Bankrate shows LA area insurance around $12,118 for $300K dwelling coverage, and wildfire exposure pushes many households far beyond that baseline source. As you pull away from LA, the market feels like a blockbuster with a collapsing box office. Still famous, still massive, but no longer guaranteed. If you're finding this data-driven analysis useful, like the video and comment which city surprises you most. Your engagement helps us continue this research. Number 4. Boston, Massachusetts. You arrive in Boston under cold wind off the harbor, gray sky pressing down like a ceiling. The city still feels prestigious. Brick, history, academia, and hospitals humming behind old facades. But the housing market carries a new tension. Less frenzy, more fatigue. Boston's peak surged through 2022 as high-income jobs, limited supply, and pandemic reshuffling pushed prices higher. Neighborhoods like South Boston, Jamaica Plain, and Cambridge stayed relentlessly expensive because demand never really left. But now, the outflow starts speaking louder. The numbers turn more troubling when you zoom out. The census domestic migration figures show Massachusetts with net domestic migration of 27,480 between July 2023 and July 2024, another state bleeding residents to cheaper region source. Realtor.com lists the Boston Metro median list price, around $772,000, down 3.7% year over year, with inventory up 25.4% year over year source. Days on market improve slightly, but price reductions rise to 10.5%, showing sellers can't dictate terms like they used to. The local reality. When high taxes meet high prices, the middle class gets crushed. Contributing factors: cost of living, taxes, and remote work loosening the tie between paycheck and place. Insurance runs lower than coastal disaster zones. But homeowners still face climbing costs. Bankrate shows Cambridge area premiums around $1,154 for $300K dwelling coverage source. As you leave Boston behind, The market feels like an old ship in rough water, built strong, but taking on more leaks every year. Number 3. Newark, New Jersey. You cross into New Jersey and the landscape tightens. Dense streets, crowded corridors, train lines, old money beside stressed infrastructure. Newark sits close to Manhattan's wealth, but the state's cost structure squeezes like a vice. This isn't a place people casually abandon. This is a place people escape when the bills stop making sense. New Jersey rode a pandemic-era wave as buyers looked for space outside NYC. In 2021 and 2022, suburbs across Essex, Bergen, and Union County surged. People accepted high taxes because the job market and proximity felt worth it. Then inflation and rates turned those taxes into a breaking point. Now the data turns severe. United Van Line's 2025 National Movers Study ranks New Jersey as the top outbound state, with 62% outbound moves, marking the 8th consecutive year it leads departures source. Census migration data reinforces the direction. New Jersey posted net domestic migration of 35,554 between July 2023 and July 2024 source. Housing stays expensive and holding costs intensify. Insurance isn't the biggest killer here. Bankrate shows Jersey City around $1,287 annually for $300K dwelling coverage. But property taxes and daily expenses stack relentlessly. Source: contributing factors? High property taxes, aging housing stock, and retirees cashing out. When people stop seeing the value in the cost, the market's foundation crumbles. As you leave Newark behind, the market feels like a pressure cooker with the lid rattling. Eventually, something gives. Number 2. New York, New York. You step into New York and the city still roars. Sirens, steam vents, neon reflections in wet pavement. But the mood in the housing market turns darker. The skyline remains, yet the population flow tells a different story. People choose space, affordability, and survival over status. New York peaked during the pandemic rebound and beyond, with 2021-2022 reigniting competition in parts of Brooklyn, Queens, and the Hudson Valley commuter orbit. High earners returned, rents surged, and buyers believed the city's gravity would pull everyone back. Then, cost reality hit like freezing rain. Now the data turns devastating. Census net domestic migration shows New York at 120,917 between July 2023 and July 2024, one of the largest losses in the country source. United Van Lines places New York among the top outbound states with 58% outbound moves source. Realtor.com shows the New York Metro median list price about $749,930, flat year over year, but the damage shows up in movement. New listings down 12.8%, price cuts rising, and the market splitting. Prime areas hold, while marginal areas stall source. Insurance adds weight too. Bankrate shows Long Island area premiums, pushing above $2,000 annually for $300K dwelling coverage source. Contributing factors? Taxes, cost of living, and remote work letting high earners leave without losing income. The real threat is hollowing. When families leave, the economy loses its backbone. As you pull away from New York, it feels like watching a giant bleed slowly, still standing, but losing lifeblood every day. Number 1. San Francisco, California. You climb into San Francisco, through fog that rolls like smoke between buildings, the air cold and metallic, the city's hills slick from mist. This place once represented the peak of American ambition. Now, it feels like ground zero, the epicenter where the promise breaks and the consequences spread. San Francisco's peak turned legendary in 2022, when tech wealth, low rates, and scarcity pushed buyers into desperation. Neighborhoods like Soma, Mission Bay, and Noe Valley became symbols of status. But when tech tightened hiring and remote work hardened into permanence, demand didn't just soften, it evaporated. Now the data lands like a punch. California's net domestic migration sits at 239,575 between July 2023 and July 2024, the largest net domestic outflow in the nation, an exodus with a body count source. United Van Lines also shows California as a top outbound state, with 58% outbound moves source. And the housing market feels the shock. Realtor.com shows the West region's prices sliding, with list prices down and inventory recovering far faster than the old forever shortage narrative source. Insurance pressure rises with wildfire exposure. Bankrate shows Oakland area premiums around $1,506 for 300K dwelling coverage. But fire-driven non-renewals and risk-based pricing create a second layer of instability source. Contributing factors? Tech volatility, taxes, and the psychological break. People stop believing they must stay. When that belief dies, the market collapses in place, not in theory. As you leave San Francisco, behind, the verdict feels unavoidable. The city that sold the future now watches the future pack a U-Haul and drive away. We just traveled from concerning soft spots to full-scale bleeding. Cities where inventory rises, price cuts spread, and the math of ownership turns brutal. The pattern stays consistent. Higher rates crush payments, insurance and taxes spike carrying costs, and migration flows expose where people refuse to keep drowning for the same address. This isn't just about real estate. This is about mobility, survival, and the moment America's housing story splits into winners and casualties. If you live in any of these markets, you already feel it. Open houses with no offers, neighbors listing just to see, and families realizing the dream costs more every month. Subscribe to the Real Estate Black Box for weekly breakdowns that cut through the noise, migration, prices, inventory, and the forces pulling America apart. Like the video, drop a comment with what you're seeing on your street and tell me what countdown you want next. See you in the next one.